Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to At the End of Wax and Sound, the return of the Magnificent Seven. I'm Matt, as always, sitting here feeling a little rough for no apparent reason. And we have, as usual, Sebastian and Mike with us. Boys, how's it going?
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, how's it going? Good, good. Just listening to my cat puke in the next room, so I'm gonna have to
All
clean that
right.
up in a bit.
That's
Have
a
you
hell of
ever
a way to start the
ha-
day?
have you ever like heard your cat puke in the middle of the night and you're like, I'm gonna be stepping in that at some point tomorrow
Oh,
because
yeah.
I have no idea where that's happening.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's gonna be fun. I like.
Have you ever
Oh my
heard
god.
it and gone, that sounds real close, and then realize,
Oh, that's on my head.
you're right there.
Gross.
I've had
That's
it where
wet.
they've puked on the bed and I didn't realize, and then I rolled over into it in the middle of the night.
Oh,
There
So
it is.
that's happened.
come on.
That's lovely.
Hey,
Yeah,
the joys of owning cats. There we go.
So
absolutely.
for everybody that's sitting down and joining us with a bowl of cereal, we're sorry. Yeah, how's everybody's week been?
Also, well, I mean, I got this new cup.
Oh my God.
Joe
Nice.
Exotic, okay.
Joe Exotic. Wow. That is amazing.
So was that on back order or something?
I don't know. Got it as a
Yeah,
gift from
there
a good
was
friend
supply
of mine.
chain issues.
Yeah.
Supply chain issues. It took 2 years to get here. All right,
There
fair
you
enough.
go.
I mean, I have my Deadpool cup as per
Hey.
norm. Yeah,
At the
boys,
end,
so-
coffee mugs coming
At
soon.
the end of the Prancing Pony from Lord of the Rings.
There you go. No, my week's been good. However, like I don't know. I mean, we'll talk about Extreme maybe at some point, but I'm all over this new Extreme song that just came out a couple weeks ago, but I only heard it 2 days ago. That guitar solo is something out of this world.
Oh yeah, I knew I was supposed to do something. I told you I would listen to that when I got home yesterday, but I flat out forgot. So
Well, listen to
will,
it after the podcast or
yeah.
whenever you want today. But
Can you
it's
put
no,
on
we're
it's
gonna
this?
throw this on pause. Everybody can wait for me now.
yeah.
Or
No,
can we
I'll
just,
eventually
like,
get to
cue it
it.
up
It's,
and put the solo on just to listen to the solo?
It's at
your
2 minutes or
recommendations
something
are
in there.
not
We
taken
could.
lightly. Yeah.
It is an homage to Eddie Van Halen for sure. And there's got elements of Dimebag in there as well in how
Nice.
he plays it. And then, of course, near the end is Nuno being Nuno. So if anyone doesn't know, Nuno Bentoncourt is a very extremely talented guitarist from a wonderful band called Extreme.
I see what you did there.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
There you go. And yeah, he's kind of been overlooked and overshadowed by a lot of people other than purist guitarists because the two hit songs that came out from Extreme was More Than Words and Wholehearted, which are one's a complete acoustic song, the other is mostly acoustic, but it's very ballady stuff.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
nobody
and it's kind of against the rest of the stuff on the album.
Yeah, so he
Yeah.
is known as a virtuoso soloist that uses very intricate chord structures and scale structures, not just your average pentatonic scale as a la Kirk Hammett.
Hey.
So the solo for the song has gone viral in terms of how a lot of these metal guitarists are now like, this is one of the most incredible guitar solos I've ever heard in my life.
Wow.
And he basically emulates, pays an homage to Eddie Van Halen, and in the lesser part because there's some Dimebag Daryl passages, but it's a screamer, man. And that ending part of the solo, holy smokes! You know that's all palm muted too.
Wow.
That like
Crazy.
the drip.
I think what we'll do is once
Yeah.
we're done here, once our administrative staff gets everything wrapped up, maybe we'll post a link to that YouTube clip there, or if you're listening to us on Spotify, go over and check that out. Or you know what, if you're listening to us on Apple, go over and pay for it on your iTunes, help an artist out, right?
There you go.
Well,
Yeah.
boys, the Magnificent Seven of 1991, 6 bands, 7 albums: Metallica, Pearl Jam, Guns N' Roses twice, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, and Soundgarden. Huge albums, but how did they follow them up is kind of our task here. And then we'll take a quick look at whatever else happened in after 1991, or what was going on in 91 that set up the rest. Let's take a quick run through this Magnificent Seven. We're going to start off with release order of August 12th, 1991. Anybody want to guess what band that was?
Metallica.
Yeah, a little known band.
Little
You
known
guys should
band.
check them out. You might like them. So they dropped their biggest album. This was the number one seller of the year. 33 million albums sold there. And then it took them 2,655 days to follow it up with Load in 1998.
96.
Was it 96?
It was.
You're right. You're correct.
Reload, I think, was 98, wasn't it?
97.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God. Whatever. We're a year apart.
Garage Inc. was 98.
There you go.
Yes.
We'll have to get into some cover music here because we're also going to hit on a cover albums coming up real quick. So in comparison, Load only sold 8 million albums.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of walked off a cliff there.
Well, and considering the shit that they got for releasing that record, that's a pretty high number.
Yes,
Right?
I would agree. It's not the lowest number on the follow-up album from the Magnificent Seven. It's also not the longest wait, but I think everybody's aware of where we're going to end up with that. And I don't think
it was so worth the wait too. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
not really. Kind of, maybe.
Okay, so here's a couple of questions on these ones. Did you own the original album when it came out?
Yes.
Metallica?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Every single one of the albums.
Right when they came out?
Yeah.
Yes. Immediately got it. I liked it.
I only got Load because I think we all went and got Load together.
I wasn't there, but you guys went to some listening party and I couldn't go. I remember that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Load's actually of all 14 of these albums, Load is the only one I had the year it came out.
Interesting. But you weren't a Metallica guy though back then, right? Like,
well, I mean, that's the thing is these days everybody, and my hair hasn't really changed since about 1989.
I wish.
mean, there's been a couple of mullets. I've had a couple of stints where I had a
neither has Mike's actually.
Yeah, mine hasn't changed, and it's going on 17 years now. It's been the same. So yeah,
hey, bald is beautiful. Come on,
bald is beautiful, baby.
But I mean, I was in the 91. I was big into the hip hop. I mean, I was listening to a lot of rap music. I was listening to NWA, Lords of the Underground. Just Tribe Called Quest, and leading right into the solo stuff from Snoop and Dre and Cube, and that's Cypress Hill. I mean, that's where I was living. I didn't really branch out too much off of that for many years, but now I'm pigeonholed as the metal guy. So there's a lot of people out there listening to this right now that didn't know me back then are like, what?
We kept Matt to the side in the music circle
when it came out. No, I didn't.
Did Rage Against the Machine change that for you at all? Like to get you into sort of more aggressive, like guitar-based music kind of thing, or was it our influences that just wore you down?
No, it wasn't even so much wore me down as expanded what I was listening to, and honestly, it was Pantera. Our good buddy Mark at in Law 12 one day, Seb sitting right there behind me, goes, here, listen to this. And he had just gotten Far Beyond Driven. Nice. And I listened to it and I dug it. But I just looked at him and said, I don't know what he's saying, but I don't like his tone of voice. But no, it was Pantera that really sort of kicked the expansion there. Yeah, Rage helped a great deal. Still one of my favorite bands.
I've been watching a lot of Rage Against the Machine on YouTube lately, and just holy shit, they were good live.
Like, there's something else live.
Wow. Good God.
I was a big. Go ahead, Matt. Finish your thought.
I nearly lost my life at a Rage Against the Machine concert at the Plaza of Nations. In the crush, I was trying to get back from it because I was having a hard time breathing. It was a lot bigger than I thought, and then as the waves sort of hit, my boot got caught, and I went down.
Oh boy!
And I thought for sure I was dead. I thought 100% this is where I die. And then all of a sudden I was floating, and then my feet hit the ground again, and some big dude behind me saw me go down and just grabbed me. And
nice.
I think at the more extreme the mosh pit and the heavier the band, the nicer the people in the mosh pit are.
Well, they're all out looking like
if you go down, there's a community of people at like really hard metal shows that will like form a circle around you, make sure you get back up. Like I've been in some doozies, man, where I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it out of here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, and it wasn't even a mosh pit. This was just
Yeah.
the crush at the center of the stage that was waving back and forth. The mosh pit was further back. I had to get out of the
Yeah.
crush to get to the mosh pit to breathe. So it
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
even
crazy.
like nobody could have moved to help me except like
Yeah.
I was just in the right place at the right time. If it was some 115-pound girl behind me, I'd be dead.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like I've been in, a lot of mosh pits. And there's always that one guy that is just coked out of his tree that wants to hurt somebody, but he might get
Yeah.
away with it for a little while, but some bigger dude's gonna have enough of his shit and clean him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, or in my case, in '94, we were at Metallica, and some gigantic guy tried to kiss me, and he's told me to relax, man, and just enjoy it. And I'm like, fuck off. And I ran away. It was scary. He was huge. I was leaving the pit, and he just like grabbed my face and was like just pulling me in. And I was like, oh my God, I got to run. And then I ran away because I was like, well, were we 17? Jesus, that was.
Although Mike
Yeah,
did leave his number for him, but that's fine.
Well, absolutely.
Well, hey, I mean, $20 is $20, right?
Yeah, $20 is $20.
That's right.
I was my biggest simp mode for Metallica was around the Load album, I think. Like 91 to like 98, I think. They could not do anything that would deter me from thinking they were the greatest band of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Load album came out and I understood it. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to evolve. They're trying to grow as musicians, and I bought into it. I still do to a certain extent, right?
Absolutely.
But like you're going to lose when you make an album that's so different musically than the previous album, like Load and the Black Album, you're going to lose a lot of fans. You're absolutely going to lose.
I think in their case, they gained tenfold over what they lost like hardcore trues from back in the 80s, and they gained people like us, 13-year-old kids.
Yeah, but that's
I think what they lost was a narrower demographic, and they widened out.
Mm-hmm.
But that was always the goal with them, though.
Oh, absolutely, and that should be the goal for any band. Like, okay, good. I mean, there's like obviously, I mean, Black was their album. That was the one.
That's their Dark Side of the Moon, right?
And they knew it. They knew it recording that album.
Absolutely.
They knew that this was going to be their album.
Mm-hmm.
So they put all the pieces into place with, getting Bob Rock as their producer and, just the attention to detail. They've never been in a studio so long as they have for the Black album. And, almost a 2-year tour afterwards. Three-year tour, hitting every city on the planet.
Yeah.
So
the Wherever We May Roam tour itself,
nowhere else to roam.
They branched out.
And they did nowhere else to roam. Yeah,
August 91 to mid-December of 92, and they did 224 shows, and then they followed that.
Yeah, that's a lot of shows.
So I mean, that's where the title of the box set comes. So yeah, Metallica obviously. They peaked. Like there's no arguing on this. Metallica's 91 album was a peak. Nowhere to go but down. I don't think they had a choice but to go down. I don't think they could have done anything, even if they had followed it up in 94. I think you hit a high water mark, and it's really, really tough to outdo.
Do you think?
I think ego played a lot to do with it too, right? They are super famous. They're richer than beyond being rich. Drugs are a problem, and then it's just your heads get.
Yeah, I mean, and you go back and you look at a year and a half the life of. They were not best buds either.
No, right? They never have been. Not at all.
They were, high on testosterone. High on life, high on drugs, drunk, and just combative.
And still mourning Cliff. They never deal with Cliff. They never, they never accepted Jason. It was a Lars and James show, and they just sit there and just every day just butt heads, and it's just like, fucking just put some.
It's kind of fascinating how a lot of in music, especially. There's always a tandem of people that don't quite get along, but they write beautiful music together, or they evolve to a great thing. Like Elvis, for example, Elvis and the Colonel, they never were like, they've always butted heads. There's another band that we're going to talk about later on in the show, which I'll save for, but you know, you don't, there's just an appreciation for writing style between two people that kind of work, but they're not the bestest of friends. Although I'm pretty sure that they're good friends now, Lars and James. Like they're not terrible to each other as they were in the early 2000s.
Well, I think Jason leaving, we can talk about that later, but Jason leaving changed all that, right?
He left the band though. He left the band.
You know, Hetfield had to find himself and just realize he's
he had to go to rehab is what he had to go.
Right? He had to go to rehab and stuff like that. So
so here's the question on this one. Between 91 and 96, between Black Album and Load, better than, same as, worse than, what is Load?
I have an answer that's twofold.
Okay.
So in terms of like a commercial record, the Black Album is the best record Metallica's ever put out. It's got a lot of bangers, a lot of hit songs. Regardless of how overplayed a lot of the songs on the Black Album are, they are top 10 songs in Metallica's catalog. Like Unforgiven, Sad But True, Enter Sandman, Nothing Else Matters. Those are all hit songs.
There's not a bad song on the record, right? It's 1 through 12 is just
and it's a bunch of
singles. Would be career suicide if they made another Black Album after the Black Album. I think where they went to Load is the proper way of evolving as a band, because they tried to experiment with different types of music. And it's not always going to work. You're going to find stuff that it's not as good as an album as the Black Album for sure, but some of the songs on there are even better than the songs on the Black Album. The two that always come to mind is Bleeding Me and The Outlaw Torn.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Those are, in my mind, Bleeding Me is one of the best Metallica songs ever written.
I'd put that in their top 5.
It would be honest. Top 5. It would be right up there with Master of Puppets and One. So you can't say that they failed, because they literally wrote one of the best songs in the entire Metallica catalog out of the Load album. So, but there's a lot more fluff, a lot more experimentations, a lot more songs that people skip over on the Load album. Like, absolutely. I don't know if a lot of people skip any songs off the Black Album. Like, honestly, they're all good songs.
I'd skip the big ones now and listen to everything else.
Because you've listened to them so much, because
I've listened to them thousands of times. But even when Sandman comes on, it's just like, fuck, this is a good song. Like, it's the last song I want to hear, but it's just like, man, it's undeniable.
It's used in college football stadiums as the entrance song, and when you have 70,000 people cheering, and then that the hook, the hits, and they all come charging out, like,
not only
so good.
But I mean, there was a wrestler in the mid '90s in ECW called the Sandman, and he was famous for his entrance coming through the crowd to that song with a kendo stick. He'd smoke at least 2 cigarettes and drink half a 6-pack of beer, smashing it on his head. And that's what the crowd was waiting for every fucking night. And could there have been a better song for him to come to the ring to? Absolutely not. He was called the Sandman before that song came out. But they're just like, well, here we go. And he was a terrible, terrible wrestler. Absolutely horrific.
He's a crowd favorite, though.
Right. But he was a crowd favorite.
Yeah.
Goldberg. Yeah, well, and but I mean that's what the crowd wanted. They didn't need to see him wrestle. They didn't need to see him win titles. They wanted to sing the song and watch him crush beers, smoke cigarettes, and whack somebody with a kendo stick.
He was the people's wrestler. He was everything that ECW tried to like be in one human being.
You know what? We're going to move on because we're going to get into an argument.
Okay.
He was the original.
Than, worse than, same as.
Mike?
It's obviously not bad. It's everything Seb said. Like it's not as good, obviously, but it's also better in some ways. You know, you got to applaud them for taking the hard 90-degree turn away from. They could have just made Black Album 2, coasted, and been good. But instead, they said, "Fuck that. We're a band that every album, in theory, sounds different." And they really they went sort of they went for it. And did it work as a whole? You know, like there's a lot of you could have. It didn't need to be 27 songs over 2 records. It really didn't. You could, we've done this. You could cut it down. You can cut them both down.
And you know what? Folks can go back in the archives, and we did a whole show on load,
Yeah.
reload, and make an album out of it. So go back and check that out in our archives.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at our next one. This is our first big album out of Seattle that year. A lot of people want to credit Nirvana with it, but actually it was Pearl Jam that came out with 10 in 1991. Took them 784 days to follow up with Verses in October of 93. Here's an interesting stat. Do you guys know what certified platinum album sales are in the US?
Isn't it 1 million records sold?
It's 1 million records.
Yeah.
Versus sold 950,000 copies in the first week.
Holy
Yeah.
shit. Wow.
It beat on the Billboard Top 10. Versus beat all 9 other top 10 albums combined.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Pearl Jam came out with a banger. Yet, when you look at the history, 10 sold 15.7, Versus sold 8.1 million copies.
Well, that's the hype, right? It didn't have the legs to last, but the hype was real in '93. Like grunge was, that train was just going full steam down the tracks, and they probably could have put a record out of, Bees Buzzing, and it would have sold 1 million records in the first week.
Yeah, I would agree. I have a hard time choosing a favorite between either of these albums. Pearl Jam, I'm probably the biggest fan of, given this whole list. I mean, I've gone to see them in concert many times. I've sung a lot of their songs at karaoke. But I mean, when you're looking at the numbers, I mean that's talk about coming out of the gates hot.
Yeah, that was such a good album.
Like they had to have had that platinum record in the second week.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and then it was just a slow roll. But I mean, they really were the first, because you think of the Seattle bands that came out. Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, and Soundgarden are kind of your big four, and these guys are the ones that hit huge.
Yep. Well, they're a little more sort of commercialized than the other ones, right? Like Soundgarden's Bad Motorfinger was not exactly, friendly to the ears for the most part. Alice in Chains wasn't out for that kind of stuff. Nirvana, as much as they say they weren't out to, be the biggest rock stars in the world, but they were. And
they were. And you know what? I always found that that's a bullshit line I hear. Nobody gets into music to not make money.
Right.
I'm sorry. When you're a little kid,
that's your career choice, right?
Like, yeah, right. Exactly.
I mean,
so
there
if
may
you don't
be
want to
some...
if you don't want to be famous, don't make music. Let's go work at fucking Home Depot, right?
I mean, there may be some like Norwegian black metal guy that sits in a rainy town that rains 350 days of the year that just wants to make music to be dark. But for the most, for like 99% of the musicians, like this is your business. This is the career path.
It's your livelihood.
This is how you want to support a family, right? So like, come on.
Yeah, you want to come out. You want to be Hendrix. You want to be the Beatles. You want to be Elvis. Everybody wants to be a rock star. Like, I mean, all credit to Nickelback for that. But I mean, I'm sorry, but you know what, Pearl Jam, I wouldn't even really consider them grunge. They got pigeonholed in there because they're Seattle. They're a rock band. They're not really a grunge band. And you know what, Soundgarden,
well, it's really alternative too, right? Like it's
Alice in Chains and Nirvana, grunge bands.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so Pearl Jam came out with 10, which I think is it's got a youthful aggressiveness that I think hasn't been emulated with any other albums after that. You know, like it's just this carefree, like in the songs of Alive and Even Flow. Like I think those are two of the best songs they've ever written. I don't think they made a better album since the first one that they have, to be perfectly honest, with Pearl Jam. And some people may disagree with me, but that is one that I can re-listen to all the time. I don't know what it is with it. You know, it's just, I think after the success of the first album, the quality of the songs as a whole per album kind of started lacking. Like there's good songs on every one of their albums, but it's like they have some really fluffy songs on albums that you just skip.
Yep.
Like does anyone listen to Rats? The song Rats?
Rats is good, man.
Come on, man.
What about Bugs? Bugs is even better.
There you go, right? Like, you know what I mean?
That's the drug influence, though, with all those weird rats and bugs and all that weird shit.
And when you look at Verses, you got animal, elderly woman behind the counter in a small town, daughter, right? those three all-time classics. I mean,
Dissident is pretty good too.
Yes.
Indifferent, isn't Indifference the last song on that record?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing
That's
song.
a low-key one of the best songs they've written too.
Absolutely.
I love
that song.
So good.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough one, but their first album was so good.
Yeah, well, and let's think about this first album. You got tracks, you got Even Flow, you got Alive, you got Why Go, Black, and Jeremy.
Yeah.
All in a row.
But don't forget about Once.
Well, yeah, Once started the album.
Right? Once started the album, and it's just the first half, like the second half for me isn't nearly as good because of all the hits were on the first half, but I think as a whole, and personally for me, Jeremy's my favorite Pearl Jam song, but I would still listen to Verses over 10 now. But I think it's just I've heard it too much. I think that's the problem with it. It's everyone's go-to Pearl Jam, and it's just like, oh, good.
I mean, the first 6 songs on the album are amazing songs.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
You go Once, Even Flow, Alive, Why Go, Black, Jeremy. Like all of those songs are so good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you took the last couple off of 10 and you dropped those 3 I mentioned off of Verses, you got a greatest hits album.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. Do you think that because of their success, they felt less pressure to come up with like these great songs?
I think I don't know a ton about Pearl Jam, but I know after 10, it became more of the Eddie Vedder show with him writing most of the songs as opposed to Stone and Mike McCready.
You can tell.
You can
because
tell
a lot of the aggression of the guitar work is missing. Like it's more about the song and the lyrics, where it was very guitar and music focused.
80s guitar players, and they're just that's what they are. So which is, you're not saying it's a bad thing, but you can definitely see the difference in tone moving forward. And I think they just decided to take a back seat and just let Eddie, hey, you're running the ship, man. You're the guy.
Yeah, you let us know what's going on, where to show up, and it's worked for them.
Yes.
I mean, it still works out. I had a thought and it just died of loneliness.
Oh no.
Yeah, right.
That's sad. But also with 10, the rest of the band was coming off the death of Andrew Wood, so they had this new singer full of Eddie was he is this larger than life character. So I think that might have played a lot into,
ironically, because he's like 5 foot nothing,
right? And it's just the excitement of having a guy like that in the band, and they're a band again, and they're creating all this music, new life, and all that. So it said when you said there's this energy about 10, it makes total sense, right? And then they just so.
Well, I mean, you can see it between. I mean, just got to listen to Even Flow and Alive back to back, and that is a supercharged combo.
Yeah.
My thought was, I think Pearl Jam embraced the money coming in, whereas at least Kurt in Nirvana did not. He for what I think he probably wanted the fame to
but he
begin
couldn't handle
with,
it,
and then couldn't handle it, or demons got the best of him. Mental health issues probably got the best of him. Something.
Well, that all goes hand in hand with the drugs and all that.
But
right?
I think, whereas Eddie and Pearl Jam embraced it and went, okay, we now have food on the table and the rent's paid. I can afford to lean into creativity. I don't have to. I'm going to embrace the money coming in. I'm going to embrace the fame, and now I'm going to lean on my creativity, which is most like Metallica in their battle with Napster. I mean, Pearl Jam started and took on Ticketmaster and said, "Fuck you and your monopoly."
You. And they told MTV to fuck off too. They didn't make videos anymore after 10.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
I think Pearl Jam got there quicker than any of these bands where they went to the experimental stage. But I think that's because of the immense success they had with their debut album. It, like as Matt said, it gave him the
freedom,
security, and freedom to explore.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that any of the albums afterwards are good, but I feel like their debut album is the best. Same with the Tea Party. Their first album was the best album they wrote, and it
Splendor Solace.
Oh yeah,
no, fucking next one was the best. No,
that was pretty good actually, but that's a different topic.
No, listen, Edges of Twilight. It's amazing. It's
okay. The first 2 albums, and then everything else that is
they
just
went
shit.
off a cliff. And it was just garbage. But whatever. That's unfortunate.
You know, I in my record store days, it was a top 40 record store. So the company would send us what we had to play. It drove me mental. Some days I just went, nope, can't handle it anymore. But I remember it's like, okay, I just threw on the Tea Party because I was allowed to play it. Some guy knocked on my office door because it was open a crack and sort of pushed it open. He's like, hey, I just want to let you know that you're playing absolute garbage music out here, and I don't want to ever come back to this store. And I'm like, it's the best. If you think this is trash, you should see the rest of the shit that I'm supposed to be playing. Come back on a Wednesday night when I've opened something up that I'm not supposed to be playing.
When you're playing on Vogue.
Okay, so let's move on here. Our next band, 2 albums. And for the to compare, I did take their follow-up 2 albums. Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1 or 2.
Well,
sold 15 million each. And then it took them 798 days to drop the Spaghetti Incident, which is mostly covers.
It's a shitty cover. It's all covers. It's a shitty
that's
covers
not
record.
Technically the next album. That's just like a project.
Yeah, well, hold on. I just did it so that we had 2 albums to compare.
Yeah, no, I get where you're going.
And then Chinese Democracy coming in at a whopping 6,277 days later. But however, one interesting thing, they were released exactly 15 years apart, November 23rd, 93 and 2008. Holy fuck, was this the biggest slide in musical history? Because Seb was alluding to it earlier, it's not the biggest band conflict that we were going to see talking about Metallica. Clearly, Guns N' Roses was cracked straight to the core by the time they started recording this because... they weren't long for this world.
Well, they after the Use Your Illusion tour, after the Spaghetti Incident, they basically broke up as a band.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the Chinese Democracy is basically the Axl Rose solo project.
Yes.
There's no existing members of... I would be really curious to see what a Guns N' Roses album would sound like today if they wrote a new album.
I think they'd have to have Izzy Stradlin though, because Izzy left in November of '91, and he was kind of, for me, he was like
the rhythm rock.
He was
and he wrote a lot of their iconic songs, and then he just said, because the stories are well known. Like Slash was a heroin junkie, and so was Axl, and they were and Death too. They were all just a mess.
Yeah,
and I think that played a lot into them breaking up was the drugs.
And Axl was a notorious control freak. I think by the time they'd done shooting the November Rain video, if the band wasn't going to break up, a bunch of them were about to quit. And I guess it technically did happen. Axl ended up with the legal rights to the name.
Yeah.
But everybody was done with his shit. And just for contrast, Spaghetti Incident sold 5 million albums. Chinese Democracy 2.2. So that's
more than I thought they'd sold. That's more than I would have thought.
Single good song on that album.
Oh, no, Chinese Democracy? Better's good. I think Better.
Better might be the only one.
And what was the other one? I like Sorry. Sorry was good.
You don't like Shackler's Revenge?
No.
Madagascar is actually a pretty good song.
Yes, Scraped. Is Scraped a song on there?
I don't know.
It was theme. It was right. It was whatever. It was, man. I bought it, of course.
Of course.
That's probably one of the last CDs I bought back in 2008. But
did you know that Slash was only given 6 weeks to live in 2001?
I did not.
He was diagnosed with congestive heart failure caused by obviously many years of alcohol and drug abuse.
Wow.
So his doctor gave him 6 days to 6 weeks to live, and he has a defibrillator implanted in his heart.
Yes, he does.
To this day.
Yeah.
So
you know what? I think I did know that.
Now he's super fit.
For those listening,
at 35, he was like, "You're gonna die."
Several years ago now, and you're gonna have to go deep in the archives. If you look up "Talk Is Jericho," Slash does have an episode there where he does go into a lot of that things. Also, big dinosaur nerd.
Yep.
Really
loves his horror stuff too.
Yep. So I mean, and it's a nice. I mean, it's only about an hour long. Jericho tends to keep his podcasts like that, but if you're a Guns N' Roses fan, you haven't heard it. Talk Is Jericho. You're gonna have to search through the archives to find it, but he does have a really cool interview with Slash. Also, Guns N' Roses connection there on Talk Is Jericho every Friday. Duff McKagan drops a dad joke of the week.
Yeah, they're usually
Which,
pretty bad.
sometimes they're groaners, sometimes they're bad, but you know what? These dad jokes get a fucking solid chuckle more than half the time out of me.
So we just plugged the Jericho show, so I expect the Jericho show to plug at the end podcast at some point. So you know, it's the ball's in your court, Chris Jericho.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
work it. I'm
get
working
on it,
on
will
getting
you?
this hired for a cruise, probably 7 or 8,
Yeah.
or 10, or 15.
You
Anyway,
can't-
just move on to,
Yeah.
And I didn't own any, like, Guns N' Roses songs, for the record. I can pick and choose some really rad songs that I really, really enjoy. Not really a fan. Could give a
Come
Wet
on, man.
hard
They're like
rock.
the greatest hard rock band of all time.
And they had a lot of songs on the Illusions that were written like in 86, 87
Yeah.
before Appetite, November Rain, Back Off Bitch. You Could Be Mine was a leftover from Appetite that didn't fit.
That was such a good song.
Don't Cry was written
and
before.
that was on that Terminator 2 soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Video for that was a banger. So let's move along here.
Here's a bit of it. Hold on.
Yep.
Just
okay,
one tidbit of information. Did you know that Appetite Destruction is the highest grossing debut album by any band ever?
Yes.
It is
Nah.
the what?
I'm not a big Appetite guy.
The best album they put out. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
Come on.
My favorite songs on that record are My Michelle and Rocket Queen.
Oh
And
my
that's-
god. Welcome to the jungle. Sweet
I'm
Child
done
of Mine,
listening to
Paradise
that
City.
shit. I can't handle it
frickin'
anymore.
Go. Night Train, amazing.
If I have to hear Paradise City one more time, like seriously.
Hey, it's the Metallica, the Black Album effect.
No,
You've
this is
heard them
worse,
so
'cause
much
it's on,
because
like,
they're bangers.
every
Well,
10
you know what? I
minutes.
think that's pretty true for all the 91 albums.
All these
I think-
records
I
are
think
well
they've been
overplayed at
played
this point.
to death.
Yeah.
So
Fucking Rocket
next
Queen's
up,
But
on our
anyways,
list,
go ahead.
September 24th, 1991. This one came out in conjunction with our band after, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. Took them 1,449 days to drop 1 hot minute.
Which is really good, by the way.
Yeah, 1 hot minute was probably musically better.
Yes.
Blood Sugar, 10.1 million in sales. 1 hot minute, 3.5.
Different guitar
So
player.
this is a
songwriters,
definite trend that we're seeing in these bands, where the second album kind of falls off a cliff as far as record sales go. Chili's, this album was so overplayed for me right off the bat.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
second only to the next set of albums we're going to talk about. But it took years for me to get into the Chili Peppers because of Blood Sugar.
I've
But
never listened to
again,
that whole record
in that-
ever.
In that era, I was more likely listening to, Black Sunday by Cypress Hill, or Predator by Ice Cube, or Tribe Called Quest, or Lords of the Underground, or Fushnikins, or something.
Mhm.
I mean, fuck. I mean, don't take my musical tastes to heart, because I did own both Shaquille O'Neal rap albums.
Oh, my good God.
Yeah, right?
Oh, that's embarrassing for you.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm just throwing it out there, because as I run these down, there's listeners going, what the fuck is wrong with this kid?
Do you guys know who produced Blood Sugar Sex Magic?
Mr. Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rubin.
He
Got that
has
Rick
a
Rubin
taste in a
sound.
lot of people's #1 albums, or
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in woodshop, one girl did probably a 3-foot diameter Red Hot Chili Peppers sort of symbol as her final project, which, we're like, but you just cut wedges out of the circle. We're over here building shit. You made a flat thing. Cool.
yeah.
I guess whatever. I mean, she put it on her wall, was, I guess, and just, if you can get away with making decorations for your room, that's pretty rad. But I mean, you can't really deny this. The thing that got me, though, is when you combine the sales of both of these albums, Californication outsold them with 16 million.
That was like
That's
big
kind of
comeback.
their. Yeah, that's a comeback record.
Yeah.
That's a good album, actually.
100%.
Frusciante came back to the band for that record because it was Dave Navarro for 1 hot minute.
Yeah.
And he's a much different guitar player than Frusciante is.
He's not. So Frusciante is such an underrated, complex guitarist. Like,
Yes.
I urge anyone to play Scar Tissue, or Under the Bridge, like that's a very difficult song to play. It doesn't sound like it because it's not flashy, but a lot of his structures on how he writes his guitar licks and riffs are very complicated. Like they're not easy to play.
No.
And for him to just nail it throughout an entire song is, he's, I think, definitely underlooked as a phenomenal guitarist for sure.
He's back in the band again for the third time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a revolving door, I guess.
Rick Rubin produced their new record. I haven't listened to it, but
that's okay.
They're not. They've never been like I never listened to them very often. Like I like a couple of songs, like Under the Bridge, and My
Great
Friends.
song.
And they have a great deal of diversity in their music, because you look at Under the Bridge and then you go over to Give It Away Now. Like Give It Away Now was a very early new metal-ish song. It had that rock rap vibe.
Suck My Kiss, same thing.
Sarah wishes she had seen the Chili's live in the 90s. Fair enough.
Didn't we see them? We saw them in Seattle, right?
We saw them in 2000.
They're days away from hitting Vancouver too. I have no intention of paying the ticket price to go see them because I don't like them that much. But also,
this might be the band that I was. This might be the band that I was like least interested in of the seven or the six or seven albums.
Yes.
That I listened to the least.
Absolutely.
Just because the music is funk.
Really.
It's funky. It's like funk rock, sometimes ska. Maybe, I don't know. Like it's not at that time. It wasn't into the realm of music that I like to listen to, which was like hard rock and metal, basically. So
yeah, I could see where Give It Away might hit for you, but the rest, like I was saying, it's the diversity that they have, which really shows, again, leans into their artistry, and that's great. Like they've made money hand over fist. Nobody can deny that Flea is one of the greatest bass players of all time, and I think unfortunately they are. Sarah's the funk ska. That's why it's one of her faves. We love her anyways. It's thank you, friend of the show, Sarah, for chiming in.
So Sarah's a No Doubt fan, obviously.
Oh yeah, no, she'll sing No Doubt at karaoke all the time and is really good at it. Yes, that's the song.
Yeah, there you go.
And Spiderwebs.
That's the other one.
The other thing about Chili Peppers, though, is they're a bit notorious because of
their naked antics
of the fucking Super Bowl, where they got caught playing unplugged. I'm going to let you guys discuss this because I have a small power situation I have to deal with. Chili Peppers, go.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, right. I don't know. It's not my thing, and it's not your thing. It's Was it their choice though to play unplugged? Or was it the choice? No choice. No.
Yeah.
They were told this is what's happening. You're playing to a track, and that's the way it is.
It's not their fault. I don't think any band would just decide to play to a track and just mimic it. Like, there's no way.
Especially at that stage of their career when they're still young and they still have all their right. They still got all their facilities are still working. I mean, now I can maybe see it, but
they're a live band that revels in playing on stage. If you tell any live band to, okay, you're not performing, they'll be like, excuse me, what?
Yeah, right.
So
do you remember any of the songs they played when we saw them in 2000?
No,
me either.
That was on the EMP festival thing, right?
With what? Filter, Kid Rock, Metallica,
Snoop Dogg, Eminem,
Dr. Dre, and was there one more in the Chili Peppers?
I don't remember.
No, we were very inebriated that day. I don't remember.
Do you remember me getting hit by the car?
Yes.
Walking across the crosswalk. Yeah. So we went to Seattle to see the opening Experience Music Project opening, and there was like a big bill of a lot of bands. And leaving the bar after we got kicked out by the server, basically, we're not serving you anymore.
Oh yeah, we got shut down.
We got shut down right before the concert. We were walking to the venue, and we literally just walked across the crosswalk that was our right of way, and a car slid in and hit me, and I went over onto the front of the car. Sorry.
What venue was it at?
It was in Seattle. It was at. I think it was where.
It was the outdoor venue.
It was an outdoor venue. It was a small.
Was it right there by the Space Needle?
Yeah, it was a football stadium.
Okay. yeah, it's because the EMP is now the Museum of Pop Culture. I
Yeah.
That's
stayed at a
right.
hotel across the street there in January when I went down, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know the exact intersection you're talking about.
It was, yeah.
I wasn't there for it. Didn't know you almost got hit by a car.
No, I got hit by the car.
You
It like
got hit by-
it screeched to a halt, but it hit me in the leg, and I went over onto the hood of the car, just freaking fingering the guy, and just kept walking because I was hammered. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
I didn't get injured because I was so drunk.
You were hammered. Yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't have
Just
time
kind
to
of
tense up.
floppy.
You went limp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
there was
went
a-
limp in a good way.
So-
Sarah's gonna die on the hill that no doubt put her on an amazing show in Vancouver in '98.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, I have.
I want to. I'm not going to say anything bad because she's the one that just found the plug for the laptop and literally just saved the show because we were
Just
seconds
threw
away
it.
from going off the air.
Well, that's
Um,
good planning.
Okay,
there, man.
let's move along so we can hammer out these last two bands and discuss some more
Okay.
of 1991 and the follow-ups. Nirvana, Nevermind. For fuck's sakes, how do you top this? It's like Metallica.
You can't. You can't. It's the best album
September
they've ever put out.
24th. So this came out the same day as the Chili Peppers.
That's
Took them
crazy, hey?
447 days to drop Incesticide. 30
No,
million
In Utero was the
albums.
next album, wasn't it?
What Incesticide was just old tracks. I don't think that was anything
Was it?
new. Yeah, I'm pretty sure because In Utero was the actual follow up. Because Incesticide, I'm pretty sure was leftover crap after Bleach. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, chronologically, it's the next one up.
Yeah.
And In Utero was 2.7 million albums sold.
Big departure in
either
sound
way,
too.
Fell
Big
off a cliff.
well,
Like,
by 93, Kurt was, we've been talking about this. He was a raging mess. And I
Yeah.
think they wanted to do the right hand turn and make it something as uncommercial as possible within Euro. And it didn't sound very good. Like it.
Freaking 3 albums. That's all they really. 3 studio albums is all they released.
It's really,
Yeah, they burned.
that's it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a shame, right?
They
And I think they're
burned
better. What?
They set up Chris and Dave for a lifetime of not having to worry about rent. It's just one of those unfortunate things, right? Like Kurt burned hot, he burned bright, and then for whatever reason, whether it was biting off more than he can chew in terms of becoming a rock star, or whether it was, the demons or the mental health or whatever, he came, he saw, he left,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it was.
And he left an imprint on music that still is,
Felt today.
burns bright
Yeah.
today. Just like Jimi Hendrix, same idea, right? He came in, he changed the world, and then he left.
Yeah.
It's just
Yes,
kind of how
and
it
about
is.
the same time too, right?
Yeah, didn't take very long for Hendrix either.
There was an infamous thing with Nirvana playing at the MTV Music Awards when they had to play to a track as well. I don't know if you've ever seen the video of it,
No.
but they basically make a mockery of it. So, like, there's times when he's clearly playing the Smells Like Teen Spirit lick, the riff, and his hands are on the mic. And like you can like bam, chicka, chicka, bam, and then his hands are just on the mic like he's ready to sing. Like so, and then the bassist is like supposed to be playing, but he's torpedoing his bass around and around and around. And then there's Dave Grohl going like bananas, right? And when they actually start the lyrics to it, it's not even the lyrics to Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Love it. That's
like
awesome.
it's just it's a rebellion against like why do we have to play to a track, because MTV wanted the sound to be pure, so you couldn't play live, it had to be from a track. So
and that's I shit like that, let them play, let them go. Shauna, who's back east and enjoying her lunch with us, we all know who killed him, referring to Cobain. I think that's one of those ones where we're all like, we know, we can't prove it, but we know. A couple other bands from the 90s being brought up by old classmate Aaron. Whatever happened to a Conlang Crush and I Mother Earth? No idea. Fell off a cliff too.
I believe both those are Canadian bands, are they not?
They are. Conlang from Vancouver, and I Mother Earth, I think, from the East Coast or something.
They weren't part of the Big Six. But yeah, I mean, Nirvana helps. Yeah.
In Utero actually sold 15 million copies. So this was probably the biggest the biggest seller of the follow-ups
Yeah.
to the major 91 albums was In Utero. Still 15 million copies. That's not a bad day at work.
That's hefty.
I mean,
If-
but that just leans into.
Well, I think
grunge-
Kurt's death had a
grunge.
lot helped that a lot too, right? Because once he died, you know, people were buying the shit
Yeah.
more. And
Yeah, because he
stuff like
died
that.
Yeah.
months after.
I think
It was
that
April of '94, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember getting that phone call or seeing it on the news.
We
and
were
then I
at school. We were
Yeah.
at school. I remember seeing it on the TV in the cafeteria or whatever. It's like, holy
I think
shit.
I had I don't think I was at school yet because I had a free block in that
Mm.
morning. But yeah, that
Mm.
was something. I think
Sad.
Smells Like Teen Spirit is an anthem song for an entire movement of music.
Mhm.
Like I don't think you could have hit a better song to fill a revolution of evolution into grunge and alternative music than Smells Like
No.
Teen Spirit. It was the perfect song to kind of spearhead that entire grunge scene and
Mhm.
alternative music in the Seattle scene. Like you can't, like it was just, you're never going to write a song that has an impact like that. I can't see it in music. Like it shifted the culture of music in one song.
Absolutely did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're and Metallica did the same thing where it moved metal in a different direction.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, they brought metal to the masses, right? And then
They
Kurt
did.
brought,
And-
you know, the world to Seattle.
yes, and
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
moved that Seattle needle. Alice in
He-
Chains
yeah.
was right there with the same sort of sound. And as I was saying earlier, I think Soundgarden leans more towards the Metallica metalish side,
They are, yeah.
whereas Pearl
Mhm.
Jam goes more traditional rock. But they were all from Seattle, so they kind of got swept up in that
Yeah.
that movement of the time, right? It's not like a city like Nashville where you're just leaning right on the country music, and like there was some diversity there, and it's just some bands were mislabeled.
Yeah.
I mean, let's also not forget the other big contribution to music Seattle gave us in the early 90s, Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Of
Yep.
course. Like you can't deny Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And Duff
Yeah.
McKagan, you know, he's a proud
yeah.
Seattle guy too, right? So he was
Absolutely.
right into that scene all through the late '80s and early '90s, living there and
Absolutely.
being around it and having this huge machine
And
of
Duff
Guns N'
still
Roses.
lives in
Right?
Seattle.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And so last on our Magnificent Seven, Bad Motorfinger to Super Unknown, both Soundgarden albums. Super Unknown is the only follow-up album on this list that outdid the 1991 album by about 7 million copies. Just over
Because
2.2
it's far
for
superior. It's far superior in my
and then
opinion.
Super Unknown with 9.
Yeah.
9 million albums.
Well,
I don't understand why I love Soundgarden. Let me
Yeah.
footnote this.
I love Super Unknown.
love
I don't like much of
Soundgarden.
everything
I don't
else.
understand based on how everything, the numbers work out, how Soundgarden is included in that Magnificent Seven and that
Well,
24 days.
they have
Especially since you could have cut it off by 2 weeks and gone 6 top selling albums in 30 days.
I
Yeah.
think it's because of 3 songs on the album. There's Rusty Cage,
Okay.
Outshined, and Jesus Christ Pose.
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ Pose was a banger for them. It kind of put Soundgarden on the map, and that gave you grunge, but with like a metal
Mhm.
feel to it.
Yeah.
So that is easily my favorite song by them
Mhm.
ever. Is
Like
Jesus
Super
Christ
Unknown
Pose.
is more of a grunge record than,
Yes.
you know,
So
it's
they came out with like a metal record pretty much.
yeah. Well, that's what they were. Like even the album before that was lots of screamy vocals and just playing hard and playing fast.
And that's what I was just saying. Whereas I think they lean more towards the Metallica metal fan base. Quick question: have either of you heard Johnny Cash's cover of
Yes.
Rusty Cage?
Yeah,
course.
it's very good.
Yeah,
It's really good.
Absolutely loved it.
That
Rubin-
one album he did where he remixed a bunch of popular songs is like
American
one of the
3,
best
yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
like,
Well, he did
he got
6. I think he did 6 of them all together, and they're amazing.
well,
Yeah,
Hurt,
and then-
so when he did Hurt, Trent Reznor said it's not my song now.
Yeah.
When he heard that cut of it, he's like,
Yeah.
he did it way better than I
Oh,
did.
it's-
And he basically handed him the song saying, this isn't my song anymore. It's his song. Because that
Well,
is
I mean,
so much
I
better.
think that almost could be the most amazing cover ever.
I think so too.
It's
That's another topic. Amazing
it
covers
is
that we
absolutely.
can do.
It's heartfelt. It's
Yeah.
so sad listening to him sing it.
No, I mean as like a podcast
Oh, I
topic,
know.
we can
Yeah,
do
yeah,
like
absolutely.
Oh,
We should.
absolutely. I mean, let's take a
I was
quick
thinking of
look
that
at.
actually.
yeah.
You know what? I'm split on how I want to tackle this. I'm gonna stick with the hurt thing for a second.
Mhm.
It was sung from two different places. Reznor was singing from a place of addiction
Mhm.
and self harm and giving into your demons. Johnny Cash was singing from a place of I'm just about done here. Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
famous story where he sat his family members down and showed them the video, and his daughter burst into tears.
Yeah,
And
I've heard that.
it's like
Yeah.
you're saying goodbye, and Johnny just flat out looked at her and said, "I am."
Yeah.
He had lost his wife about several months beforehand. He knew it was coming. Whether it was by doctor's diagnosis or just that gut instinct. A friend of
Yeah.
mine lost an important person and family member in their lives last summer, and looking at his behavior in the last 6 months, there is a feeling that he too kind of had a feeling, whether it was by
Yeah.
doctors information or just a feeling. But there is that point with some people who just know, well, it's time to say goodbye. This is coming.
Absolutely,
Sean
Sean.
is sticking with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, my dear. Johnny Cash was a recovered drug addict, so I feel he pulled a ton of those emotions from that as well.
Yeah, absolutely did.
A
That is
lifetime full of
Yeah.
pain, right?
Yeah.
that is probably what resonated with him in the beginning
Mhm.
for pulling that song out, because nobody sings a song they don't like.
So
I
the
mean-
difference between those two takes is that like Trent Reznor is singing from a place of addiction, as you were saying, right? But it's like
Mhm.
it's like he's trying to highlight the addiction in the song, whereas
Mhm.
Johnny Cash has reached down to the deepest level of his core, that he's lived those addictions.
Yeah.
He's lived all of those words in
Yep.
that song, and you can feel it in his
Mhm.
voice when he sings it. The emulation that he has when he just says every single syllable of those lyrics is haunting.
Mhm.
It resonates to your
Mhm.
core because it's coming from the deepest place of his soul. So it's such a good cover
I get goosebumps every time I hear it.
every
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Still,
Oh,
like, even-
yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Now my second point was looking at Super Unknown, Black Hole Sun, Spoon Man, Super Unknown itself, Fell on Black Days, like
Mhm.
banger after banger after banger with Soundgarden.
Yeah,
And
Black Hole
then-
Sun is probably their most popular song they wrote, I
Uh-huh.
think, in terms of a mass of interest.
Yes.
Spoon Man's
Constantly
also
played still to
banger
this
too.
day.
Spoon Man's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then, like, honestly, after Super Unknown, they went to pretty was it Down on the Upside
Down
was
on the
their next
Upside.
album, and
Yeah.
that was not the same. It got shit on.
No.
It was a great album. I loved that album, but
Yeah.
it was not the same as
You could tell they weren't getting
Super
along at
Unknown
that
or
point.
Bad
It was
Motorfinger.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
can
it was-
also say Super Unknown was the best follow-up that kind of kept the momentum going for the
yeah,
band.
absolutely. It's the
So-
only one that outdid the 91
Yeah.
album.
Yeah, they went up a level, I think.
They
with
leveled up.
They leveled up big time, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would take Soundgarden out of the Magnificent Seven of 91, and I would say they did a lot better in the 94.
I know why they're there.
And Kurt died just before this was released, so there was
Yes.
renewed momentum with the grunge thing too.
There is a reason why Soundgarden is
after.
included in the 7 albums, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because there's another album that was released in 91 that bridged bands together. It was Temple of the Dog, which was Chris
Yeah.
Cornell
And Pearl Jam.
with Pearl
Eddie
Jam.
Vedder, yeah.
It was also released in 91. So that's the connection that holds Soundgarden
Mhm.
to these 7 albums, I believe, right? So, and Hunger Strike came out, and that was like an instant hit.
Oh
So,
God, yeah.
That album,
and
I just listened to it the other day.
Yeah.
It's really good and it holds up.
Stay at a
really
Load of
well.
Heaven as well. You know, 2 really good songs.
Reach
right?
Down is a
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah, Sean, I was just going to mention Temple of the Dog. Yeah, and
Tribute
it's I mean,
to Andrew
it's,
Wood. Yeah.
Hunger Strike is one of those ones. I've sung a lot of songs at karaoke. I can pull off Cornell doing Like a Stone, and I can pull off Temple of the Dog because a lot of that is Eddie singing, and I can do Eddie a lot better. But Cornell has this uncanny ability to blend in with whoever he's playing with. You would say it's like, okay, well, he mixing him in with the guys from Pearl Jam is one thing. Um, but how would he do elsewhere? Well, how about he goes and replaces Zach in Rage Against the Machine, and we have Audio Slave that dropped 3 monster albums. Monster albums.
I saw them once live. They were so good.
And Shauna pointing out the Temple of the Dog, tribute band from Mother Love Bone.
Yep.
Yeah, like we'll have to do a Cornell show at some point because like that man, I was lucky enough. I saw Soundgarden on tour right before they broke up. I saw Chris play his first solo tour with a good buddy of mine, Joseph. We went and saw him at the QE, which was weird because you're like, well, Cornell.
Was that mostly acoustic?
It was mostly acoustic because his first album was very much closer to Down on the Upside. It was a lot more mellow. He did do a couple of Soundgarden things, but it was the slower, more acoustic versions of Fell on Black Days and Spoon Man.
Was that Euphoria Morning then?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it was just weird because it's like, well, I was in a mosh pit a couple years ago when I watched him sing, and now I'm sitting quietly in a seat. Okay. But I mean, that's just the evolution of an artist too, right? Like,
he grew
Hollywood scores now. So what else we got? So Mike, you had a list of stuff that that sort of caught your eye from 91 as well. So let's see what else was going on, because most of these albums were in the top 10.
Yes.
Red Hot Chili Peppers was 14 on the air, and Soundgarden was 62. So there's a lot of music in between. What else did you find in your research there?
Well, the Tragically Hip released Road Apples in February of 91. You know,
solid album, great leap forward from Up to Here. And then they followed it up a couple years later with, oh my God, oh no, it's lost me. What's that a fucking album called? Oh, Day for Night? No, the one before that. Oh shit, the one with Courage and Locked in the Trunk of a Car. Fully Completely. Thank you. And then they put out Fully Completely, and which was produced by a metal producer at the advice of Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden, ironically enough. Yeah, Tragically Hip. I mean, tragedy is just an absolutely apt word for that band, because there's no good reason other than marketing that they should be limited for the most part to Canada. Yep. A few years ago, right as COVID was starting to hit, I was in the Florida Keys. I was having dinner with my wife, and the restaurant at the marina we were at was I had a lady play an acoustic guitar, a little show there, and she's like, if anybody has any requests, I know lots of songs. So I went over and I asked, you know this? And it was Wheat Kings. And she's like, no, I've never heard of it. And it's like, this would fit in really well. So I wrote it down. I found the YouTube link, wrote out the YouTube link for it. I said, when you go home, look this up. I think it would fit really well with your sound. If she ever did, I don't know, because it was our last night there, so we never saw it again. But I mean, is it too Canadian maybe? But then I think that might be, because a lot of the lyrics were, it was like, Gord Downie was like the Canadian encyclopedia. He was like a historian for Canada, writing everything down and putting it to song. So maybe that's the reason, because Rush made it in the States, Nickelback made it in the States, and in my opinion, Who made it in the States, right? Well, the Guess Who. And I mean, the Who had a song called "Running Back to Saskatoon." Yep. So, I mean, I think it would. Maybe it was marketing. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
It's just something that never gelled in the States.
Yeah.
So, but
they just,
also, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead. Finish the thought.
I don't know. It just keeps coming back to, like, there's a lot of stuff that just aren't marketed as well up here that make it down there. Like Canadian football, like.
Well, come on.
I mean,
we can't even compare the two.
Yeah, well, we got a better game.
I'm pretty sure the highest paid player in the CFL doesn't even make the league minimum in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely not.
No, absolutely.
You got to put an ass every 18 friggin' inches for
that.
I
think it's the 3
speaking
downs.
of Canadian band, Shauna coming in hot with 54-40. Absolutely. Those guys were just dropping just absolute gold left.
Little
right,
Ocean Pearl.
Yeah,
That's a good song. There's another band that released an album in '91.
Oh,
That's a
R.E.M.
pretty high profile band.
You
That
too.
wasn't you
You
too.
too. Yeah, Octung
Yes.
Baby, man.
Octung Baby.
Yeah, it's the where do you go after where the Joshua tree? Like what the hell
There's
do you do after
nowhere but down after
that?
that.
Man,
Like, you can't.
they left, but they stayed on the same level. I think
It's a good album. Like, yeah.
Octung's a great record. Lots of experimentation, and of course the follow up for me, it didn't really gel with me with Zooropa, but
Yeah.
again, they're taking that experimentation kind of to the next level. But yeah, have you guys listened to any of the songs from the U2's?
Well, there was Rattle and Hum was the one before Chung Baby, and then
was it? I thought Joshua Tree was
Joshua Tree is 87. Rattle and Hum was 88.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then followed by Zooropa 2 years later. I mean, and then they pop as well, but I think All That You Can't Leave Behind 2000 was another solid follow up for U2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know what
Lost
went off the rails there other than Bono's Ego.
The Atomic
Joshua Tree is their album.
Yes, that one, the Atomic Bomb one. I think that's after All That You Can't Leave Behind. That one's okay. It's it's more of a return to form, and it's typical U2. There's some really good songs on it.
It was 2004. How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, and then everybody got mad at them. I think in 2014 when they gave us something for free that.
Oh, we talked about this before, but yeah. Come on, guys. It's a free
15
album.
years
Relax.
beforehand, we would have been paying for.
Also, Lollapalooza was the first one, was 1991.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically Perry Farrell's farewell to basically dissolving Jane's Addiction. And the first lineup was Siouxsie Sioux and the Banshees, Nine Inch Nails, Rollins Band, Fishbone, and Rage Against the Machine.
Rollins Band. Now there's a blast from the past. Now,
right?
Mike, did you get us tickets for Rollins Band?
No, I've never seen Rollins play music. I've only seen his spoken word.
I might have gotten him through the record store then, because I remember seeing him at the Commodore. That was pretty badass show. And then I've never seen Henry's spoken word. It's always been
funny. So good.
I had tickets to it. And then I realized it was the same date that I was out of town for a WrestleMania, so I had to give them up.
Oh, that sucks.
Because I had airfare paid for.
Well, right, absolutely. The Smashing Pumpkins put out their debut record in '91, Gish, which I'm not a Pumpkins fan. I do not like them, but Gish is really good. Gish is great. And again, another one with the follow-up that sold 18 million more copies than the debut, Siamese Dream, sold a shit ton, right?
Yeah, and the Pumpkins were just actually here with Jane's Addiction last fall.
Really?
So
that's cool.
Sean is wondering what happened to the Offspring. Well,
Dexter
together is a scientist trying to cure AIDS, and they just did a tour. They were here in Abbotsford a couple months ago.
Yeah, they played here a few months ago.
Chubby.
Yes, they played Hellfest.
They're like 60 now, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're up there.
They're up there. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Smash was out in '95, so we're that old. But no,
I saw them. They played Hellfest in France in the summer. They were actually pretty good live. I didn't go see it, but I watched it on YouTube.
A friend of mine went to the one in Abbotsford sort of last minute, which tells you maybe the ticket sales aren't up there. Said it was still a good show.
Yeah. Nobody cares.
I recently saw them on a Woodstock '99 documentary, and it was showing them on stage. Basically, Dexter stopped the show and said, "Stop fucking groping the girls in the mosh pit."
Yeah.
Paraphrasing there, and then it showed, cut to them doing a live sit-down interview, and they were 3 times the size. Sean is wondering how their voice would hold up live. Actually, apparently it held up really well.
Yeah, from what I've seen, they can still, Dexter can still sing.
Yeah.
There's also another album that was released in '91, which in my mind is the best album this particular artist has ever recorded, and I think it's their number 1 album.
Hold on, give me 1 second, because I had this list. I want to see if I can guess it, because I think you and I are going to be on the same page here.
Hit me,
baby.
What do you think it is?
The Beauty and the Beast soundtrack.
Actually, I think there's an album that outsold this one, but it's
Waking Up the Neighbors by Bryan Adams.
Second one.
No, it's
Come on.
it's No More Tears.
Yes, Ozzy Osbourne, No More Tears, 91. I think it was released in September. If I'm
Something like that,
looking.
right around
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
big time. Yeah, yeah.
But it's got like some of Zach Wilde's most iconic riffs.
hmm
No More
Oh,
Tears is a
absolutely.
banger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Zach's coming in. Zach's coming in trying to fill the shoes of Randy
Yeah.
Rhoads too, right? And I think this was Zach's.
He did an
second
album. Yeah, it was the second album. He
Second
did.
one, yeah.
but I mean, still,
what was it?
it's
No Rest for the
Ultimate Sin?
Wicked. That was No
Oh,
Rest
this
for the
might have been
Wicked.
his third album though, because I think he was on Ultimate Sin as well.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
because that sounds that album.
Maybe. I don't know. No, it wasn't. It was Jakey Lee was on there.
Jake's good too.
Yeah. No Rest for the Wicked. That has my favorite Zach Wild song of all time in it, Miracle Man, by the
That's
way.
a great song.
That riff is so
Yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah.
okay. So here's as I'm scrolling through these album lists, there's one that popped out, and do you remember what major comedy picture came out and just absolutely
Wayne's World.
supercharged a band?
Oh, I was gonna say Tropic Thunder, but no.
No.
Was it Wayne's World?
Yes.
Yeah, they helped
Queen's
Queen.
Greatest
Bohemian
Hits
Rhapsody.
was the fourth best-selling album of 1991 because of Wayne's World.
Yep.
But one song.
And Freddie dying too. That kind of helped.
Yeah. Sean is a big fan. Thanks for tuning in way back there. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
90s. Yeah. The 90s music we can just go off on, right? We're
so good.
We're a little bit into the OT, but I'm having fun here, so I'm not worried
having
about
fun.
it for another 15.
Van Halen put out for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge in June. And, it's say what you want about the Sammy era, but they know how to write a hit song.
Yeah.
I'm a Dave guy, but
all I can really say about that album is
Sammy's a better singer though.
He's a way better singer, but I think
but Dave is a better performer.
Dave allowed them to be a lot looser.
Yeah, he was such an energy guy on stage too. Like you can't but like just feel that energy with them. Whereas Sammy was just more about I'm just gonna sing the song really well.
Yeah, because I saw Van Halen in '95 and they didn't play much of the old. They played Panama. God. Yeah. It might be the only Dave tune they played was Panama. And it was amazing. Alex the drummer had a neck brace on. Eddie could barely walk. They were just a complete mess.
A complete mess.
I think they called it like the what the hell, the paramedic tour or something like that because they were all injured.
That's
and
amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
Michael Jackson put out an album in '91.
He did.
Yes, he did.
Dangerous.
That's Sony signed him to a record deal for $1 billion in '91.
I guess that. Well, I mean,
the wheels fell off after. Yeah.
And Dangerous, is the number 3 best-selling album of '91.
Yeah.
So it came in 3 million albums shy of beating Nirvana.
Mm-hmm. We're also forgetting about a song that was so huge. I think it was number 1 for a long. It was a soundtrack song. Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams.
Yeah.
That song, I think that was the number 1 single of the whole year.
Yeah,
that song was
off of Robin Hood.
Robin Hood. It was a fucking juggernaut.
One of my favorite movies.
And song's still really good.
It's got Kevin Costner in it, so
I know. Him playing Robin Hood is just weird.
The only good movie he's done is Waterworld.
Okay,
I'm just kidding.
I'm all for things different, and I love Waterworld. I haven't watched it.
Okay, so Seb had to go.
I like Waterworld and I like The Postman, but it's not nowhere close to the best shit he ever did.
I recently saw the Universal the Universal Studios Waterworld show. You know what? That movie gets shit on because
it's not a terrible movie, but
it cost a ton to make it.
To make its money back, but it wasn't bad. It was an interesting concept, and I really like the joke payoff when you see the name on the boat as it's the bad guy headquarter boat as it sinks.
What was the name?
Exxon Valdez. He was called the Hopper's character was called the Deacon of the D's, and all they ever referred to it as, "We're get him back to the D's, get him back for the D's." And the Exxon Valdez had just catastrophically destroyed some coastline.
Yeah.
And so when it tipped up and it had Exxon Valdez at the back, I remember I was sitting there with, I think a bunch of us went and saw it. I remember I was sitting with our buddy Chris. right next to me, and like we both just pissed ourselves laughing.
Let me ask you this.
No, I think
Go for it.
We're going off topic, but if
Yeah.
Waterworld was made today with the technology that we have today, do you think it would be sort of received better if it had the sort of computer enhancements you can put on a movie? That's what that movie needed, was because it was filmed on the ocean. They built all that.
They were
shit
trying to do Mad Max on water.
Oh, absolutely.
So
And
it didn't. I don't know. Do you think the people would want to see it now, or is Avatar good enough for?
No, I'd see a remake of Waterworld. If it's a complete, you get Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
I think it would be called Avatar 3. No, I think it could have done better. I think the big knock against it it wasn't as good as it needed to be to make its money back. I mean, eventually it did.
Here's the thing, though. I think
it reached breaking even.
I think if this was a low budget B film, it would be like a cult classic.
Just because,
it cost so much money and it was Kevin Costner. Yeah. It was like this movie. Like it would have been better as a B movie, like a low budget cult classic movie, right? But it's because it was so much attention and money thrown into it that it just
failed. The Chinese democracy thing. It's that, okay, we're waiting for this, and then it finally hits you. Like, you've been waiting for this. It's like fuck.
Well, I mean, that's sort of in line with what we've been talking about between the follow-up albums in 1991. Costner was coming off a string of hits leading into Waterworld.
Untouchable, man.
Dances with Wolves. He had The Bodyguard.
He had
Robin Hood. He had he had hit after hit after hit after hit after hit.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's like he's the most bankable star at that time. You put his name in a movie, you're gonna sell out the theater for sure.
It was Kevin Costner and Mel Gibson. Like you put those and it's like, okay, well, we're going. That was the the Brad Pitt, George Clooney of the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that's what we're looking for. So Sean, not a fan. The story was shit. Well,
I'd have to watch it again. I don't even remember what the hell it was about. It's been so long.
For land, basically
looking for land. Yeah, it's like buying a house in Vancouver. We're just looking for land, bro.
That's it.
Can't find nothing. Yeah. So what else we got music wise here, boys? What's going on?
Rock and Rio put on their second, because Rock and Rio is a famous sort of festival that I didn't realize went back this far. But just the headliners are pretty funny to look at the different bands. So Rock and Rio 2 was held between January 18th and 27th of 91.
And that's in Brazil, right?
Brazil, yeah. Like there's millions of people there. Aha, Prince, In Excess, Guns N' Roses, New Kids on the Block, George Michael were the headliners.
One of these things is not like the other.
Right? AC/DC was there too, but there was a couple rock bands there. But for the most part, it was still that late 80s pop. Was huge, especially calling it Rock and Rio. There wasn't a lot of rock and roll going on there.
Well, I mean, you can get Guns to go on stage, and they're going to make up for a lot of that. But that's a very
Rod Stewart was there. He played twice. The Scorpions, Ozzy played. Whitesnake.
Okay.
There's
some rock in there. They're obviously they're billing based on whatever metric they were using back then.
Queen played, so that was one of their final. Freddie's final year, so he wasn't very healthy either.
I've also just noticed on this list another seminal album by a rocker. Into the Great Wide Open dropped then too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was huge. That was Tom Petty at his finest. And
I'm a Wallflowers kind of guy, but not a Wallflowers. Wildflowers. I'm sorry,
Wildflowers. Wildflowers is the rare perfect album.
It is. Rick Rubin produced,
and Wildflowers.
Lenny Kravitz.
Follow-up. That was his.
Lenny Kravitz put out an album as well.
Yeah, Lenny put out Mama Said. Yeah,
with
Slash on the solo with.
That's right.
What's that song called?
I want to have a look at this Tom Petty thing.
Always on the Run. Yeah. Love that song.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Kravitz fucking killing it. But I mean, Into the Great Wide Open, number 49 on the year, 91. Followed it up 3 years later with Wildflowers, and I'll go to my grave and I will fight dirty and defend Wildflowers as a perfect album.
It is.
There isn't a flaw in that album. There's not a bad song. There's not a bad note. There's not a bad lyric. I damn near wore that CD out.
Have you seen the documentary of the making of that?
No, I have not.
I can't remember where it's playing. It's either Netflix or YouTube. Something. I think it might be YouTube. It's awesome. Like it's like a couple hours long. It's done by his daughter,
Okay.
and she put all the footage together. And there's tons of interviews with all of the Heartbreakers and Rick Rubin. He's in it a lot. It's really cool. And I got the box set on vinyl somewhere, and there's like an extra like 15 songs or some shit that he didn't release, and they're all good. They're all good. Like it's crazy. It was like his pet project.
So
Now,
Rick,
I
there was an interview.
accidentally stumbled onto Tom. Sorry, Seb. I've stumbled
That's
onto Tom's best-selling album. What is it?
Tom's best-selling
His
album.
greatest hits.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's like the Beatles. If you look at that, it's like when the Beatles released number one, it was just all massive.
And they talk about that greatest hits thing in the Wildflowers because the Mary Jane's Last Dance was done during the Wildflowers sessions. And the last song with their original drummer, then he was asked to leave, and then they brought in a new guy.
There was an interview with Rick Rubin once where they asked him about his process, and he was saying, "It's like, listen, I don't play any instruments. I don't know anything technically about like sound engineering or anything like that. But he's like the ultimate feel guy. Like he'll just feel it and just close his eye and listen to music. But he allows himself to like explore the musical space by the artist, and he's a bit unorthodox because he's definitely not a hands-on producer where he's in the mix. He's just telling you this song sucks, you need to change it, or this part is good. There's the whole thing for Chop Suey. When System of the Down was recording the song, they were missing something in the song. And
good.
What do you mean? That song's amazing. The what's the lyric? Father, the Father you condemn me lyric or whatever.
Okay.
Near the end of the song.
I condemn my spirit, or I condemn my spirit.
Yeah, so they were trying to find a lyric for that song, and Rick Rubin goes to Serge. He's like, you know what? Pick a book on the shelf, open to a random page, and the first line you see in it is going to be the lyric for the song.
No way.
And he went to the book. He went to the bookcase and picked out a book, and that was the first line that he saw, and that's how the lyric, and just to have like he's just the ultimate intuition producer where he like feels something and just goes with his intuition and says this is the direction, and arguably one of the greatest lyrics for a System of the Down song. Are you guys fans of System of the Down, by the way?
Not I like Chop Suey's fine, but
so good.
It doesn't appeal to me.
The thing with System of the Down is they're amazing artists, and like I love them, but I don't like a lot of their music.
No, I can appreciate what they are, but I just don't like.
Yeah.
I can't get into their music. It's just
he's a composer, hey? Like he's Serge has done a lot of music scores for movies. A lot of them are Armenian movies, I think too. I think he's Armenian.
They're all from Armenia. Yeah,
but he's a very intellectual person. But anyways,
well, I have something you guys need to watch. It's Rick Rubin based. It's on Disney Plus. It's called McCartney 321. It's six short episodes. It's like 6 half-hour episodes. It's him and Paul just sitting at a control desk listening to old Beatles songs.
Amazing.
And just talking about Paul's process and the whole thing and breaking down it. It's really cool, man. It's just the dark room, the two of them, microphones, a couple of lights, and a big control deal, and they're just breaking down Beatles songs. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Rick Rubin. Also, did you guys know that Rick Rubin's a massive wrestling fan and actually was a partner with Jim Cornette and Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which produced.
Did not know that.
He
looks like a wrestling fan, actually.
Yeah, he produced a young talent in Smoky Mountain Wrestling that went on to become one of the biggest stars in the business.
Triple H.
Who gets a lot of my money every year for a cruise.
Chris Jericho.
Lots of guys went through there, partnered with Jim Cornette. He was a silent, secret partner because, he didn't want the stink of wrestling on there. But yeah, he's a huge wrestling fan. And, he was sort of hands off. And there's a lot of people wonder what if he could have taken what Seb was saying about this doesn't work for my ear. Let's find something different. If he could have adapted that to wrestling, if he wanted to be a little more hands-on, and if that would have made a difference.
I think he made the correct
it's entirely
career
possible.
choice.
Yeah.
It's, you know, if
Yeah.
it's just his instincts on what he likes, and his instincts on what he likes seems to work well for the masses,
Yeah.
I think it's entirely possible. Just managed to finally find the data on the Tom Petty albums. So Into the Great Wide Open, 2.6 million in sales. And then Wildflowers beat it at 3.4. So that's one of those albums.
There
The
you go.
follow up from a really, really good 91 album turned out to be even better.
Which, and it wasn't even labeled a Heartbreakers record, but all the Heartbreakers except for the drummer who quit
Yes,
played on Wildflowers.
that's correct. This is like Full Moon Fever. It's just Tom
It's
Petty.
just Tom. Yeah.
So I mean, which is weird because, you know, it's Wildflowers in '79. In '89, it's just Tom Petty. In '91, it's Heartbreakers.
Yeah.
In '94, it's just Tom Petty.
And then after that, he went back, The Last DJ, and I think
He
the one after
just
that.
looks it on Google.
He's looking at it on Google.
Yeah, that's 100%. I was just about to say, Sean, I know I have two screens.
And then everything after Wildflowers, he went back to the Heartbreakers and just labeled as both. And I can't remember the last American Dream. No, something like that. American Dream. I don't know. Their last record was really good too. I can't remember the name of it. American something. Anyways, you got it there. What's the last one?
I mean, Tom's just one of those guys. He produces. He's a player, right? Like that's just the way it is. He's going to come out and whatever he likes to do. And I mean, he did Highway Companion in 2006, and yeah, I mean, this is less than 17 albums. I can't find the one we're looking for, but yeah.
There's just a handful of solo ones, but even still, like Mike Campbell, his guitar player, was his partner in crime for for the whole time. And he didn't care if it was a Heartbreakers or just Tom Petty. He's just there playing, helping him write, doing the whole deal. So yeah, love Tom. He's amazing.
He is.
Yeah, I mean, rest in peace. That's one of those ones that nobody really saw coming. I mean, there's a circle of friends that knew he wasn't in the greatest of health. He had, I believe, a heart attack, and
he had emphysema during he got emphysema from smoking a lot, and he wasn't doing very well at their last tour, and then he could barely even. He had like bad knees and stuff like that. He was a mess. Yeah, but he still went out. He just loved to perform, so he just went out and did it. Right?
You can't keep an artist down.
I mean, it's and we saw the same going back to the Tragically Hip. Gord's like, okay, I got a clock. Let's do this. Yep. And if you've not seen it, go back and find I can't remember the name of it, the Tragically Hit documentary of that last Canadian tour.
Oh, it's crazy.
Gord, it is a fucking heartbreaker. Especially when you realize that those monitors on the stage, some of them were TV monitors, because he couldn't remember anything. He was almost doing karaoke.
Yep.
To a point on some of those songs, because
he had to learn how to talk again, right? It was just
he did.
Yeah. So to even get to the point where he can sing songs where he has no memory of any of that stuff anymore, and be able to do it sort of in pitch and key, and just missing basically your whole frontal lobe of your brain, is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah. So Sarah, do you want to close?
Sorry.
Do you want to close with this last question from Shauna?
From Shauna? Yeah, absolutely. I was just looking at that. Favorite live performer, and I just had one more tidbit to follow up. Lenny Kravitz, Mama Said, 1991. Was outsold in 1993 by
Are You Gonna Go My Way?
Are You Gonna Go My Way?
So, I mean, that's his number one song though, for a popular that song is great.
Yeah.
But
but Kravitz as well. 91 was a banger year, and
arguably the greatest year in music.
as we've seen. I mean,
for our generation, anyway.
The results can vary. Some, like Soundgarden, like Kravitz, like Tom Petty, the follow-ups have done better. Favorite live performer? Whew.
It's not, for me, it's not Metallica.
No.
Now, while we're thinking, Shauna's
Stone Temple SDP, that's a good one.
Nine Inch Nails. Love both bands. I sing a lot of Stone Temple Pilots songs.
I saw them back in '93. Were you guys at that show? The one at
And I've never
the
seen
flaming
either
the
of them
flaming
live.
lips opened. Yeah, it was cool. All they had was core out, so that's all they played was the whole album of core.
Yeah.
And they were
Yeah,
wild.
Green Day
That
did
was
that on the Dookie tour, and then like, but that the whole show was like 35 minutes long, and I was
wasn't that the Nimrod tour? We were there. I think I went with you, Matt.
yeah. There was a bunch of us that went. I was like the opening band played longer. I was
Yeah, that was fucking
pissed.
bad. Anyways,
Really? Oh,
It
that's
took
bizarre.
years for Green
it was
Day to get
bad.
back in my good graces, and I
They never
still,
have. I decided.
favorite live performer.
I have one.
Ozzy puts on a show. I don't know if I'd call him my favorite because every time I see him, his vocals were just fucking garbage.
Chris Ebb, go. Do it.
Iron Maiden.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. I was just yeah.
Remember when we went to see? Did we go to the Brave New World tour?
Yes, we did.
So that was like arguably the best live performance I've ever seen of a
And
band.
the Coliseum was like cut into like a third. It was tiny. There was nobody there.
Yeah, and it was Bruce Dickinson's first tour back with the band, and they went for broke.
Like they just awesome. Nothing will ever top that.
That was the single best concert I've ever been to. Is that specific tour from Iron Maiden?
I think so. I'd agree with that.
They are so good live. If anyone ever has a chance to go see Iron Maiden live, you have to see them live.
Yeah,
they are so freaking good. So
we have Sarah's chiming in. 9 Inch Nails and Bowie. Solid. Sean is agreeing as well in the comment section that blessed to see him as well. Funny thing, Shauna. I used to work with Shauna at back in the day. And that was the workplace where Sarah and I reconnected as friends.
There you go. I have a second place live performance too.
Go ahead.
And I've only ever seen them one time, but I was so surprised on how well they performed live. Rob Zombie.
Yes, really? I was thinking about him.
It's so over the top, the set, and it's just good. It's like I was like, holy! Like a lot of his songs bang in a stadium setting.
I mean,
yeah.
So have you seen Rob as his solo projects or in his solo career, or did you only go to White Zombie?
Don't remember if it was Rob Zombie or White Zombie. It was I remember going with Chris, and he rolled his ankle and he had to sit with his.
That was White Zombie.
Foot. So it was White Zombie.
Filter opened for them, so we saw Filter and White
Zombie. That was a phenomenal concert.
That was great. I remember that concert. Like Filter blew my mind. Filter is
also great.
Has my favorite song of all time by Country Mile. In Hey Man, Nice Shot. I remember that show because they started off and they played the first 3 songs off of Astro Creep in a row.
Oh yeah.
And the first song starts and it's like footsteps coming down the hallway.
Like Electric had part one, isn't it?
You can see the stage setup is going. And then the drummer came out and he just sort of, hey, and everybody's like, oh my God. And so
that's literally the way they look.
He starts going, like he starts doing the drum beat to the footsteps, right?
Yeah.
And then the bass sort of kicks in and Sean just sort of slinks out of the side stage very subtly, comes off the side and starts playing the bass bit. And then I think his name was John, came out the other side and started with the guitar also very subtly. It was a progressive layered quiet entrance to this intro. And then that song has an uptick in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't Supercharger Heaven. I think it's Electric Head
Part 1. It was Electric Head
Electric Head Part 1. Yeah. And then it hits that uptick. And from the side of the stage next to John, at 400 miles an hour, spinning and screaming, here comes this Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
Dreadlocks flying Rob Zombie. Yeah. And
it was
the place
so good.
Went nuts.
Yeah.
And that was it. Rob was fucking fantastic.
Yeah, they were on point, that concert.
White Zombie was killing it. And then it was almost the exact same thing when I saw them about 2 years or a year and a half later when they were playing a double bill with Pantera, which was just amazing as well.
Actually, I think Tea Party's up there with me. Seeing them live, like their music transcends like listening to them at home.
Did you ever see them on their acoustic electric tour where they play 2 full sets? One was acoustic, one was electric.
I saw them at the Commodore only one time. Okay,
this would have been at like the Town Pump when it was still there. Yeah. Oh man, like they played like 2 hour-and-a-half sets, and like the first set was all the crazy instruments, all the songs redone. Yeah. It was right when that they put out that sort of EP of all the redone songs, and they did everything they had acoustic. Then they came back out and just like ripped your head off.
Yeah,
a lot, like electric.
their music is 100% meant to be played live.
Absolutely.
Like it doesn't do it any justice listening to it. Like
No.
It's so different live, the experience, because they're in the music.
Yeah.
So
some bands are much better. Like, I mean, that's the thing is, I can't remember what band had the albums. Like, I heard they suck live, and some bands make, they don't translate well to an album.
Like the Pumpkins
don't live. It's
good live.
fantastic. Also,
I think the Pumpkins would be good live in a smaller venue.
Yeah,
honestly,
not to ignore it. Current favorite live performer right now is Rich. She's talking about Rich Ward from Stuck Mojo, Fozzy, and Guardians of the Jukebox. An amazing energy. Honestly, though, I'm thinking about it, and I keep coming back to one name. Probably the most surprising concert. I didn't expect to enjoy it. I was kind of there because a bunch of us stuck our foot in our mouths and said, yeah, if this guy comes, we'll go. And, 3 of us ended up going, had a great time. Most surprising concert I've ever been to. Fucking phenomenal live performer, and he does it with a bare minimum of a microphone and a guitar. Garth Brooks.
I was just gonna say, I bet it's Garth Brooks.
Yeah,
I thought he's gonna say Garth Brooks. Yeah, I've heard he's a phenomenal performer.
It was, Rob has his energy. Rob also has a stage show.
Yes.
Yeah. Like Kiss, like Iron Maiden. Garth,
he's a presence on there.
It's him and his guitar, and he is. I have no idea how he's carrying around the weight he carries around when he does a tour, because that man is hustling. Shauna is very disappointed in me right now, but that's okay. But no, I mean,
Garth Brooks.
Take it from what I'm saying. If I can list Ozzy and agree with Iron Maiden and Rob Zombie and all these other bands, and I can still sit here and go, yeah, I've seen all that stuff, and Garth Brooks is up there.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people where he's next level performer live. Like there's a reason he's one of the greatest of all time.
Even ZZ Top for me too. I saw them open for Brooks and Dunn. Nice. And both. I'm not a country guy. Like I don't do country, but Brooks and Dunn were awesome live too.
Your wife does country.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why I went. But ZZ Top, it was like
an insult.
It was like a co-headlining thing. And ZZ Top, man, they for 3 dudes, man, they were so loud, so simple. Just had their guitars and they're just playing and they're just like rocking your face off. It was so cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, good. Fantastic.
I always appreciate it. Sam's in trouble.
Way to go, Sam. My wife.
It's time for me to mosey on out.
Well, next week, join us when Seb's not here.
That's right.
I'll be joining you from a hospital.
It'll just be me because Mike will be in court. At any rate,
I'm defending the country. I'm not bashing it.
Sherry's picks are U2 and Clutch.
Sherry time U2.
Oh yeah, U2. That was a great show too.
Haven't seen U2.
That was
I feel that's probably one of those bucket list concerts that has never been high on my list.
And I think it's too late now to go see them now.
I'm okay not seeing U2, honestly.
Yeah,
they were never one of my favorite bands.
I don't know if I am. I'm not going to be okay with the ticket price they're going to charge.
Well, you can go to Vegas and see them. They're playing a residency in the fall.
There you go.
With a different drummer because Larry's hurt, and so it's not really going to be U2.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things, right? Like there are certain bands that I don't want to see because it's not the original band, like Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots. Like guys are gone, not interested. I'm stuck on the Pantera thing, but
I'm okay not seeing Pantera.
I mean, it is what it is. So
if you get a chance, Matt, you should go see Clutch. Just Neil Fallon, their singer, is such a great. Because the other guys, the other two, the guitar player and the bass player, just stand there the whole show. Seb's seen this a few times with me, and
for Clutch,
Neil is he's like a preacher at church, but on steroids.
Oh, he's got an energy,
and he's got this. He's got this command of the crowd, and he is just freaking awesome. Live.
Yeah, that's another band that
they're better live. They're better live than they are on their own records, I think.
Because when you get it on a record, it's so compressed, the sound. Like it doesn't, the sound isn't allowed to like breathe in the room.
No.
When you see bands like the Tea Party that are so multi-instrumented, and a band like Clutch, which is like meant for venues, like it allows the music to reverberate around the room and really like shake the area.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Now, something just occurred to me. There was a major. I don't want to say tour because I think it's only 3 or 4 shows. There was a major announcement made last week for a legendary band getting back together for some shows out in the East Coast. The Misfits.
Yeah.
Oh,
Glenn
yeah.
Danzig, the original
thanks.
lineup is back.
Meh.
I've seen Danzig a couple of times. You and I, the 3 of us went and saw Danzig. He was on
In Seattle.
Ozfest.
Tacoma, yeah, the first
Seattle,
ever
when
Ozfest.
Ozfest was like 4 bands. Great 4 bands though. Biohazard, Danzig,
Sepultura.
Sepultura.
Who was the
and
Didn't we go see them at
We
the
did.
Commodore,
Yeah, the
Mike?
3 of us
we
went
saw him
down.
at the Commodore as well.
You guys basically patted me down before we got in the car because you thought I was taking weed across the border.
Yep.
But
well, hey, we got to keep ourselves safe, man. We got to do
absolutely
what we got to do.
But a little more.
It was in a sock, by the way. We forgot to look in the socks, but it was in a sock.
I didn't. I had one waiting when I got home, but I didn't do it. But so Danzig's back now. Mike, I think you
Misfits, not Danzig.
See Danzig at the Commodore.
Me and
Danzig's
Seb,
back with the Misfits.
Yeah,
that's the one where he jumped in the crowd.
Yeah,
and
that's
where
right.
it was all
like it was out of he got
like every show he did that. He beat somebody up in the crowd every show, kind of thing. Which is probably one of his roadies that was just out there.
It was a planted guy.
It was a planted thing.
Probably one of the other guys that took an extra ticket. Friend of another friend claims that he was jumping in after him, but I don't believe that. But it was something out of a comic book. I remember sitting there because we didn't go down to the floor for that one. We had a booth.
I had the booth. We had the booth at the Commodore,
and so we were just sitting there watching the show. And it was like it would look like straight out of a Wolverine comic book. He just came off the stage, one leg back, one leg just knee to chest, arm reared back, fist like. What the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Have you guys listened to the Danzig Sings Elvis album?
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Well, even his last record, whatever that was called, it just the sound is so bad. I don't understand what's happened.
Compressed, right? Like
it's like he's using instruments you buy at like Walmart, and it just like it.
Yeah.
Like from a guy that made like his first 4 records. Let's go with the first 4. Oh, they're amazing. Rick Rubin produced, I think, the first 2.
Yes.
Again, back to the Rubin conversations, but the dude knew how to make good music. Even his Misfits music, Sam Hain, the Misfits, it was just, cool punk music. So it was simple, but it sounded good. This newer stuff sounds so bad.
Yeah, it's not.
I just don't get it. Like we could do better. I could do better with GarageBand. It's just really weird.
It's very industrial sounding almost, right?
You don't have the people in the support roles to get there. Like you look at a lot of bands, so it's like, I had Rick Rubin for this, and then fell off a cliff and they didn't have Rick. Like look at how Bob Rock helped Metallica and a lot of other bands, and then not so much after that, right? Like I think Rick came in and did a Metallica album, but I mean, Bob
he did Death Magnetic
on Saint Anger, and that didn't work well. So Danzig, what was it? I think it was the first Danzig album that Rick produced, and that had Dirty Black Summer and
that was 2. Twisted Cane was 1. Dirty Black Summer was 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and Mother was on 1 as well.
Yes, and then Rick wasn't there.
Was it?
3 was
I'm pretty sure.
fucking weird.
3 was weird. 4 went off the deep end weird too, and that's when he fired everybody in the band and just turned into the Danzig show.
Yeah,
but I like 4. 4's cool. It's got that industrial kind of.
Somewhere in between there, he did. Black Acid
Devil.
Yeah,
the second one,
that was diverse and weird and very
it's techno. It's bad. It's bad industrial.
Yeah,
right.
Industrial is the word I'm looking for. And then somewhere in there, he did the instrumental, the basically a score. An album of that Black Aria.
Black Aria. Yeah. So I had that CD somewhere.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Really good.
I think I bought it and you listened to it and
I had to go get
it. We drove everybody nuts playing it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was one of my favorite ones to just mellow.
He did a follow-up to that, I don't know when, like 10 years ago. Not as good.
I don't think it's as good.
No, it's not as good.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're pushing 2 hours here, boys. I mean, I think we've had a hell of a discussion. I think 91.
We had a good run for today.
Yeah,
rich discussion. I think we'll have to get back into some more music. If
Seb
survives the wrath of Mrs. Hyde, good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
I'm going into hiding.
Worse. She might send the daughter down.
That would be better. I would take her.
You can't have her. I'm sorry.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
But so join us again next week at the end. This has been Matt, Sam, and Mike. We're diving deep dive into 91 and the follow-up albums thereof. Next week, we'll be back with some more content. Keep an eye out on our Facebook page to find out what that is. And join us next Saturday morning with your coffee or your lunch if you're back east like Shauna. And from me personally, good afternoon.
Good day and how do?
See you later.